But here we go. We'll start off with this. Now, this article was published in Variety magazine. It's about a week old now, at least, by Tatiana Segal. And what a great name, huh? Tatiana. Who thinks to name their kid Tatiana? But it's a great name. But anyway, and it came out on the heels. This article came out on the heels of the South Park episode with where they made fun of the Pandaverse, or South Park into the Pandaverse. I talked about that in my last podcast. After that was aired, and how they go after Disney, Marvel Disney, they go after Disney and Kathleen Kennedy in particular. And this article was published very soon after that, which I will come back to that point later. But it's entitled, and other people on YouTube have talked about this already, entitled Crisis at Marvel, Jonathan Majors' Backup Plans, The Marvels Reshoots, Reviving Original Avengers, and More Issues Revealed. There's a lot packed into this. And as a lifelong Marvel fan, and particularly of the movies, I once told my two sons that I always took them to see the Marvel movies, because going to see one of the Marvel movies was like watching some of the best parts of my childhood up on screen for all the world to see. Okay, so Tatiana here in her article brings up she brings up the elephant in the room to begin with. And that is Jonathan Majors, the most pressing issue to be discussed at the retreat, and talked about, gee, why aren't we making as much money as we used to, And this is one of the issues. Okay, so Jonathan Majors at the moment is the most pressing issue that Marvel has facing them. And I've talked about him before, in that Majors is up against some very pressing legal issues, right? And this goes back a ways. And originally, when the accusations were made, there were a lot of people who said that it would never go to trial. Well, it has. And they're sexual and abuse allegations, and they come from multiple women. Okay, I'm not saying he's guilty. That has to be determined in a court of law. But I am stating a fact when I say that the allegations and the charges have been leveled, because they have. A lot of times, particularly when you're talking about a high-profile organization like Marvel Disney, allegations for most people, allegations themselves, are enough to force a change. Well, Marvel has ignored that for a while, but now Tatiana here, I just love saying that anyway, is saying that it is no longer an issue that Marvel can just ignore. It is past the point where they can just hope it all goes away. But instead headed to a high-profile trial in New York later this month on domestic violence charges. That's not something that you can just sweep under the rug and hope people forget about. So what happens? In the case of Jonathan Majors, Marvel has taken all of their eggs and put it in one basket. Majors is Kang. And in the multiverse, there are hundreds and thousands of Kangs. There, every multiverse you can think of, there's a Kang. And he's supposed to play them all. And so far, he's already played 3. He played the version that was in Loki Season 1 in He Who Remains. He played, for this image here, from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, where he played Kang the Conqueror. And he's in Loki Season 2 as Victor Timely, or as I call him, Stuttering Stanley. If you haven't seen Loki Season 2 yet, if you have, then you'll get that reference. But anyway, my issue with Jonathan Majors is, as an actor, he just doesn't have the range to play all these parts and be effective at it. Now, here's a case of what I mean. Watch this for a moment here. This is from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
You're an interesting man. Scott Lang.
Watch this for a moment.
I don't know who you are, but you've made a big mistake. Okay? I'm an Avenger. I've called the other Avengers.
You're an Avenger. Have I killed you before?
What?
Okay, now the problem here is that Kang is supposed to be the next great menace after Thanos, right? And Thanos was exactly that. Thanos was exactly a great menace. And anytime he was on the screen, the viewers, the audience, knew that. It was projected well. Here, Kang looks disinterested and bored. And there's no menace, there's no presence to the way it's being portrayed. In Loki Season 1, He Who Remains, Jonathan Majors did a very good, I thought, a very good portrayal of He Who Remains, because he was sarcastic, he was witty, he was irreverent, he was not disinterested, but he was disassociated from everything that he was talking about Universal Armageddon, but he was doing it in such a way that made it all seem like it was just a pastime, and he did it very well. Okay, well here he's trying to act like the big bad guy, and it just doesn't work. Okay, just another couple seconds here.
They all blur together after a while. You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types. Who are you?
Just a man who's lost a lot of time. Like you.
The performance just doesn't exude menace, and that's what you need a big bad hero, or a big bad villain, I should say, to do. You need them to exude menace. And Majors isn't doing that. His best acting role, Jonathan Majors' best acting role, may be right here.
Oh!
There he is, right there. That's Jonathan Majors. Now, if you don't know the story behind this, these two girls apparently got into a fight, and Jonathan Majors just happened to be there to break the fight up and be the peacemaker, right? And some people have made the claim that this was his best acting performance. That was his best acting performance to date. Okay, I'm being a little sarcastic, I know, but it goes back to the issue that was brought up in the Variety article, is that Marvel can no longer ignore the issues that they have with Jonathan Majors, and they may be finally at the point where they're willing to pivot. I don't think the fan base would object to that. I really don't, because parts have been recast before. The first time that Thanos appeared on screen at the event at the end of the post-credit scene to the original Avengers, that wasn't, oh God, what's his name? The guy who went on to play Thanos. But that wasn't him. It was some other actor, right? But Iron Man 1, there was a different actor who played Rhodey, and it was changed in Iron Man 2, and nobody blinked an eye, right? Nobody really blinked an eye. So changing a character isn't always it isn't always a detrimental thing to do, and I don't think it would be in this case. Now, the second thing she brings up, the Marvel machine has been putting out a lot of content, and that's true. Part of that was imposed on Disney. I have to be fair about it, I suppose. Part of that was imposed on Disney by the pandemic and the shutdown, and you followed that up with the writers and the actors strike, and they had to make content that they could actually put out on a streaming service so that people could see it. And so they did a lot. This is just a list of all the Marvel television shows that have been done since they first started. In Daredevil, you see Daredevil there. Daredevil's still by far, I like Jessica Jones, but anyway, Daredevil's still the best one. Of all the television shows, the streaming series that have come out, Netflix's version of Daredevil is absolutely the top of the list. The Punisher was pretty good too. The Inhumans itself almost destroyed Marvel streaming. So did Cloak and Dagger. And I never even heard of Hellstrom. Okay, so then you get to Disney Plus. WandaVision was a good show. Falcon and the Winter Soldier. WandaVision was excellent. I loved WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good up until the last episode. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was good up until the last episode. Loki Season 1 was well done. The What If series was just kind of, okay, it's nice. Hawkeye was too short. They only did 6 episodes. It needed at least 8. Moon Knight, why bother? It was a waste of time. Ms. Marvel, why bother? It was a waste of time. I Am Groot was made for kids. She-Hulk Attorney at Law was an abomination. All copies of it should be burned and cast into the pit of fire somewhere. And What If Season 2, the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, that was all just throw-offs. Secret Invasion, my God. Secret Invasion was such a letdown. And we're still, tomorrow, or 2 days from now, Loki Episode 6 comes out, and I'll come back to Echo. Ironheart has been canceled. Agatha, Coven of Chaos has been canceled. Daredevil Born Again is being burned down and rebuilt from the bottom up because what they had filmed was so bad that they've torn it all down and are rebuilding the whole thing. Armor Wars has been put on hold, and Marvel Zombies apparently is still going ahead. Why? I don't know, but give me a break, man. Marvel Zombies, that's not what we need. So that's just some of the streaming content. Then you had the movies that went along with all that as well. The point she's making is that, did it get to the point where there was just too much and they were burning people out on superheroes? Yes, I think that's true. I think they were burning people out. The other part of it with movies like right here, she references Shang-Chi and the Eternals had mixed results. The problem with Shang-Chi was that they promoted it as Shang-Chi, this super karate guy, and he was upstaged by his sister. And the Eternals had a diverse cast, which is fine. If you want to have a diverse cast, that's fine, but you got to give them something to do. You've got to give them a story. The cast that they put together for the Eternals, I didn't have a problem with any of that. It was fine. There were a lot of good people in there. The issue with the Eternals was they didn't have a story. They worried so much about putting together this movie with a diverse cast that they forgot to write a story. They forgot to write something for them to do. And the movie has just dropped off the face of the earth. Nobody even wants to consider it canon, as if it never happened, right? Because the story was so bad. And Marvel opens November 10th, which is Friday. They say it cost $250 million. That's lowballing. Reports of it are, if you add in all the reshoots and the marketing, it's up to about $400 million total, with the initial production cost, the reshoots, and the marketing that they've done. And it's opening the track. They're listing $75 million here. The most recent projection was $40. The other problem with the Marvels, of course, is that it has Brie Larson in it. But I will come back to that. All right, this Variety article, there's a lot in here. And like I said, a lot of other people have talked about this on other YouTubers, right? Other YouTubers have talked about this ad infinitum. And the point I want to make about it predominantly is a lot of what Marvel has done has shot themselves in the foot.
I just fucking shot myself.
They've shot themselves in the foot, to use an old Army acronym, but anyway. And she points out an example right here. They had a schedule swap with the Marvels that they needed a movie in. And the only other movie they had to put in that release on that release date was Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And so they rushed Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania to the box office, which meant that the effects, and it was a very effect-heavy movie, but the effects were not complete. And a lot of the sequences, they were poorly done or just incomplete. And it caused the movie to suffer. And Ant-Man and the Wasp would have set a new tone. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, listed here, $200 million budget, had an opening weekend of $106 million, and worldwide made $463 million. Now, you always have to take these numbers with a grain of salt, because this figure here is only the initial, what's listed as a production cost for the movie itself. It doesn't list marketing, and most times it won't list reshoots if they had to reshoot anything. So even if you took this number at $200 million and it made worldwide 463, that's at best break even. Okay, the movie broke even, but the standard that Ant-Man and the Wasp set was that it had a huge opening weekend, 106 million, and then it dropped off the face of the earth. Guardians of the Galaxy 3 didn't. It had legs. Every weekend, a lot of people went to see it. I think the Marvels, what's going to happen to the Marvels is that it will have a decent opening weekend, and then that'll be it. And it's going to lose Disney millions of dollars, right? But they rushed Ant-Man to the theaters because they had to postpone the Marvels. Why did they have to postpone the Marvels? Because I talked about this on a prior podcast. Brie Larson couldn't get along with anybody. They had to put up with that and sort of work all those bugs out, right? So they set a bad precedent by rushing Ant-Man to the screen. And so far, they have yet to come out from under that cloud. Now, I think another reason, well, she talks about it here, the so-called bad VFX we see was because of half-baked scripts. One person involved was She-Hulk. And he says that's not Victoria's fault. Victoria was the director for She-Hulk. That was Kevin's fault. But that is a problem with a lot of the stuff that Marvel's been putting out lately, is that it is badly written. It is, what the term half-baked scripts is just a euphemism for the fact that the writers don't know what they're doing. The writers, especially in a show like She-Hulk, turned it into fan fiction as opposed to actually writing a story about a superhero, okay? And all the while Marvel was bleeding money. This is an interesting point. All the while Marvel was bleeding money with a single episode of She-Hulk costing $25 million for a half-hour episode, man. Which was more than the final season episode of Game of Thrones. That's a lot of money to blow on She-Hulk Attorney at Law, just to get something that looks like this. Okay, so there's a lot in this article if you haven't read it, and I don't want to spend forever on it. But the other reason that makes this article a little interesting to me is the timing of it, the timing of all this coming out right on the heels of the South Park episode. It just strikes me as a little diversionary, I think is the best word I can come up with it. Right here. Writing the Marvel obituary would be ill-advised. Kevin Feige is the Babe Ruth of movie executives, and Marvel has the most profitable track record in movie history, no question. Okay, up to this moment, or up till recently, that's true. They no longer have a spotless track record. But I think what they're trying to do with this article is just redirect, keep themselves out of the crosshairs. Because Kathleen Kennedy, as she was parodied in the South Park episode, was primarily targeted for what she did to Star Wars. And with Deadpool 3 and the Fantastic Four and the X-Men all on the horizon, Marvel is trying to let people know. I think that's the real underlying, the hidden agenda, if you will. The hidden agenda of this article is that Marvel is trying to let people know that with Deadpool 3, the Fantastic Four, and the X-Men all on the horizon, that they're no longer going to let any of these things be done in a manner that She-Hulk was done, or Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, or the Marvels, Captain Marvel 2. They're going to put Captain Marvel 2 out and just let it bomb, and then try to pick up the pieces from there. And what this article is actually saying, with all these words, what this article is actually saying is, don't shoot us yet. We're not done. Okay, we've made a mistake. Everybody calm down. It's going to be fine. Just give us time to redirect, and we'll get back to the glory days. What's another reason that I think that's what this article is really saying? Is just it's kind of a misdirection. It's kind of a they're sending up a mini white flag, if you will, right here. Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans have reportedly agreed to return to the Avengers. Holy shit, man. Robert Downey Jr., of course, Iron Man, was killed at the end of Endgame. Chris Evans, Captain America, Steve Rogers, was a 100-year-old man at the end of Endgame. Now, with the multiverse, they can do anything. They could bring both these guys back. They could bring Black Widow back. Not that I would be averse to that. To see Scarlett Johansson in black leather tights again, that'd be okay with me. I wouldn't argue if they wanted to bring Scarlett Johansson back and put her in the black tights again. That, right, wouldn't bother me at all. But the fact that they're floating this idea of bringing back the OG Avengers for Avengers 6, Secret Wars, Avengers 6, they're floating this idea. They're sending this out there that they might bring Downey and Evans and Johansson back, right, to the franchise. What does that tell you? Why would they do that? Because they know they're fucked if they don't. Which brings me back to this article, right? Brings me back to this article. Why would this article be released now? Because they know they're fucked if they don't. So they're floating these ideas. Okay, just give us time. Give us time, and by the time Secret Wars come out, we'll have all this fixed. What's another indicator of that? I want to show you this, please.
What the fuck? Oh my god, it's all real!